Welcome back to Some Parts Not Included, a podcast where three lifelong amputee friends hang out and talk about all things amputee related. My name is Amanda Marie. I'm a right leg amputee, and these are my co-hosts, the Jamies.
Hello, I'm Jamie and I'm a right arm amputee.
And I'm James, a left arm amputee.
And we have a slight imposter today, and her name is Patty. And Patty is actually one of my best friends for what did we say, like 18?
I think so.
Years or
it's
so
hard
now.
for us to do the math with brain trauma between both of us.
Yeah, we've equally hit her head more times.
Over 30 times? You definitely have the majority, but I've put a few concussions against that.
Not something I want to win. But Patty, yeah, we go all the way back to college is when we first met, and we thought it would just be fun to have some guests on that are close people in our lives to kind of get a perspective of what it's like to be friends with an amputee. So the most important question of all, Patty, how do you feel to be outnumbered right now?
Pretty good. I have to say this is a first in my life. I've never, I think maybe, yes, I think I've only ever been around 2 amputees at a time. So this is a first.
I love it always when you're with a group of people and the amputees outnumber the able-bodied
right?
people.
It's a nice change of pace, I have to say.
It really is. It really is.
Yeah, because Patty's actually met Jamie before when they both come down for my birthday and my mom's funeral. So they got awesome opportunity. Fun party times.
I mean, same time of year, but horrible joke.
Yeah. No, it's all good. We're all morbid trauma people here. Maybe not James yet, but
I was gonna say there's the
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
No comment.
So we could just like roundhouse kick you. No, we're gonna roundhouse give you questions, I guess.
So, what would you say is the most interesting thing that that you have learned from Amanda regarding like her amputation? So, like, I know that there's like a lot of really weird facts and things like that, and really interesting things that she probably does. But what would you say is the most interesting one?
I don't know that it's necessarily interesting, but it's insightful. I didn't realize how much maintenance went into the limbs. Like learning and seeing Amanda's baby leg and then immediately my brain doing the math of just a growing child and realizing how many limbs and parts she's had throughout her life. Like that's just something, I mean, maybe that is interesting, right? But like to me, it was the most like, it was just this huge light bulb moment where it was like, whoa, like how much of your life do you spend at a doctor's office just being able, to walk? Like something I just take for granted. I just hop out of bed and I just do it, right? So that was the most, I think, insightful one where it was just like, oh my gosh, okay, like wow, I never even thought twice about that.
Very interesting. Very
yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
What would you say you like envision? So before you knew Amanda or before you knew like a lot about amputation and stuff, what did you like think or how did you think that limbs got made or created or produced? Did you know a lot about it already?
No. Honestly, Amanda is the first amputee that I'd ever met in my entire life. And we met when I was 19 years old. So to be honest, like I don't know that I really thought about it a lot because it wasn't in my realm of people around me, and it's not like it was featured in movies and on TV and stuff, right? There was no representation whatsoever. So it just wasn't even in my field. It wasn't till I met Amanda where it's like, oh my gosh, like there's so many things that I take for granted that I just literally don't even think about, and then especially after meeting you, Jamie, and recognizing that like it's a whole different world where it's like you have both legs, but you don't have both hands, and it's just like seeing the adaptations of how you do things. And it's like, oh wow, again, I've been, best friends with an amputee for almost 2 decades. Never even thought about that either. Like even once I was in the realm, it was still things that because I don't have to think about it, I just didn't think about it. So it's really interesting to see what the brain picks and chooses, and that we do kind of have that control a little bit. That unless you're really forced to think about it, like, why would you? You know?
So
So
now that
true.
you're in the amputee realm, do
Mm-hmm.
you since then are you can you like spot amputees in the street now? Do you just see them all the time? You start noticing them?
I mean, not really, because you don't always see it, right? There's so many invisible things sometimes that it's, people manage to live their life in a way that's normal to them. So to me, that's just normal. It's just somebody going about their day, unless it's a super obvious one. Like when I met Amanda, I could tell that she had a little bit of a limp, but like, because I'd never met an amputee before and she always wore long pants, I wasn't 100% sure until, until it actually came up. And because I'd never met somebody, I was like, am I allowed to ask that? Like, I didn't know the etiquette. I was just like, I wanted, but I was meeting a whole new group of people. So I'm like, am I comfortable with any of these people to be what's going on with her? Like, I can tell that like something's a little different, but like, she's just this cool chick. So like, whatever, when she's comfortable to tell me, she'll tell me. And how I learned that Amanda was a leg amputee was we were getting ready to, I forget where we were going, but we were all in the dollhouse front lobby getting our shoes on. And there was a bunch of like random friends. And there was somebody else that was newer to the group than me. And all of a sudden I could see Amanda whispering to one of the guys. And she's like, watch this, watch this, watch this. And she
I
takes
know
her
what's going
leg
on.
and she whips it to get her shoe on. And immediately I'm just like, what's going on? What's happening? And the guy is losing it. I'm like calmly like inside, like I'm acting like everything's totally normal, but like on the inside, I'm having the same reaction of this guy of like, what is happening? She just whipped her leg 360. Like, our knee's supposed to do that. What's happening? And then put your shoe on and you whoosh, flung it back the other way. And the snap that I heard, I was like, okay, that's a mechanical leg. Okay, cool. Things were
Classic.
clicking in my brain. Like, okay, cool. This is just normal. This is normal. Okay, that's how she gets her shoes on. Cool. But also
Now
now I
things
know
make
why
sense.
she walks a little bit slower and has a little bit of a limp because some part of her leg is anatomical.
That was the first time you realized, or like did you have inklings before that?
A little bit of inklings, but like that was when it was like
Okay.
cemented, where I was like, okay, question answered. I don't need to ask anybody now. Like,
And for those who don't know what the dollhouse is, which is probably every single person watching,
Yeah.
it was the name of a house where all our friends rented in college. So we would go and party there like every weekend or hang out there constantly because it was like 5, 6 of our friends all in. That's actually how Patty and I met each other, is through that group of friends, and we nicknamed it the dollhouse just because college, so I don't remember the reason why we
What
named it that.
and that wasn't, I didn't live
usually
there, right?
I would not like to give too much information away because I just remembered, but I do believe it had some kind of correlation with someone's last name, and they thought
Oh,
it was
yes.
off of
Yeah.
that. But like, we'll just leave it off of that, I guess. But
I
yeah, fun times. That's so funny, Patty. That is the first time that you realized, because like we just talked about this, I think like last episode, which I don't know if we'll air it in order per se, but
Mhm.
talked about that as one of the pranks I used to pull on people. So
Mhm.
now we have
Yeah. I
inside
would,
scoop on the others.
yeah. And that was kind of the moment that I knew that if I had a question, I could ask you, because like clearly there was no shame around it. There was no fear. There was no self-consciousness. You were a leg amputee. That was just it. Period. End of story. And so that was the moment where I was like, okay, cool. So if I do have a question, I can ask her. But like, I wouldn't say that necessarily piqued my interest and curiosity to start asking a lot of questions. Cause I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think I ever really did, but it's just kind of as things came up, I felt like I could ask you questions, but like there wasn't a lot of like, oh, like me trying to discover what it's like. Cause to me, like you were still just a normal person. Like you just happened, it's just like, just because all of our bodies are different, right? So it's like, to me, it doesn't make anybody any different in its own way. It's just, we're all different. And that's just the end of the story.
That's right.
Interesting. That's really interesting. I
I
mean,
have a
I wouldn't
question.
call a man normal, but
No, me neither.
I mean, none of us are, and that's what makes us different.
And
We are
literally,
our own
that's why I
form of
said thank
normal.
you. Because even if I had all 4 of my limbs, like, there's no way I consider myself normal. But
We're all weird.
I think.
Exactly.
So, how many times have you seen? And I'm sure there's like just too many times, but how many times have you seen Amanda spill and take and bail? Too many to count. And follow-up question: which is the most memorable?
Honestly, I feel like we're on par together. I feel like Amanda has seen me bail just as many times. Most notably for me was the parking lot when we went to get batteries and we were standing in line, and an old lady warned me. She's like, "Oh, you better tie your boots up. You're going to fall." And then Amanda just watched me like just eat it in the parking lot because I stepped on my shoelace.
So it's not. It's not a leg amputee thing. It's just a.
No, it's not.
Not both her
Because
legs.
honestly, like I can't. I know I've seen
So you
you
have both your
bail out,
legs,
but
and you fall as much as Amanda does.
Yeah.
probably, definitely, yeah.
Well,
Like, I
She
can't
just has
remember
the
too
most
many of yours.
spectacular bails that I've ever seen, and that's why I asked that question. I wasn't
like,
asking you. I was
her.
asking for Amanda. Have you ever seen Amanda bail?
I know I have, but
That's
none of
why
them
you
are
guys
coming to
connect so much.
mind. Like I feel like all of our falls just blend together because like we've gotten better in old age because I feel like we're more conscious of the fact that we can get very hurt if we fall now.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
yeah, like I can't really think of it. It's mostly just don't give Amanda orange juice. She will toss that across the room. Like that's where she's spilly. Like that's where my brain went when you're like, how spilly is Amanda? I was like, don't give her orange juice.
Oh, you're thinking, yeah.
It's a different type of spilly.
It's a different type of spilly. Yeah.
Patty and I naturally are friends because we're both very clumsy, I think, by nature. But per leg ratio, I think we fall equally. So maybe I fall a little bit more, but it's like per leg ratio for sure.
You're number
like,
one, I'm number two.
You're very almost tied with me. That's what I would say.
I thought there would be one like epic bail story that like stuck out in your mind. Like I have that with Amanda, so it's like at first it was.
What is yours?
Well, ours was just walking on a sidewalk on ice, and she went down like a sack of potatoes, and I was really. At first, I was very like I was afraid for her life until she started laughing, like, and then I knew that it was okay to also laugh because it was so funny. She's just so funny when she falls. I think people falling is just kind of hilarious, but it's not funny when it's a leg amputee. You know what I mean? It is, but it isn't. If you're an amputee, you're kind of allowed to laugh, but I'm also not a leg amputee, so am I even allowed to laugh? I don't know, but they're like it's like a spectacular thing that happens. It's just like it's a whole show. And
that's true, and that's why like I'm suddenly thinking, I'm like, I can guarantee you every time Amanda's fallen, I've laughed every time. Because I just know that like,
I had to make sure she wasn't seriously injured first. But
I did that as I was laughing.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I think notably, like it. To be fair, we were in college, so there's a lot of stuff that makes it so those memories are foggy, including like age,
trauma.
Yeah, trauma. Yeah. Back then, Patty and I did drink alcohol. Well, not that Patty does it now, but I mean, definitely in way lesser quantities than we probably did back in the
drinking
day.
alcohol.
Jeez.
I know.
Us teenagers.
Those college teenagers.
We met when I was 19, so I guess you're older than me. I always forget that.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, she does.
What do you think's in this cup, man?
Which he holds.
How do you think I can get by on these podcasts?
Yeah, every episode we're like, "What's in James's cup?" It's usually coffee.
Yeah.
It is always coffee.
Yeah,
James
that's
drinks like 10 coffees a day, so
I've cut back to 9. So
I'm
so.
amazing.
I have another interesting question for you, Patty.
I hopefully have an interesting answer for you.
I hope so.
you better.
The very first time that you picked up Amanda's leg to help her, whatever was the case, or whoever, did you find it uncomfortable? Or were you just like, this is just an artificial leg, I'm just picking it up? Because I know that some people who are not amputees get really weirded out by artificial limbs. So how did you feel? Like the first time you touched her, the first time you like picked it up?
Yeah, no, especially considering my lack of experience with it, it was like the first time she asked, it was just like, here you go. Like, it was just like, whatever, like me passing you a bag or a
Just
shirt,
another
or
limb.
it was just,
Amazing.
it was just part of her. Yeah. So that it is interesting to realize that, like, I wouldn't think it's a big deal. So to hear that it is to other people is like, really, why? Like, it's just like a shirt. Like, oh, just pass me the pants over there. Okay. In order for her to work, she's got to walk. She's got to get her pants on, and get her pants on, she needs her leg.
Okay,
Very
I guess
true.
follow-up question. Are you weirded out by the fact that Amanda never wears pants?
I'm just used to it at this point. It was definitely the first time she did it. It was that moment where I was like, oh, we're this comfortable with each other. Cool. Because I'd never had that kind of adult relationship with somebody before. So it was kind of like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, we're just full blown adults. So we can just walk around each other without pants on. Cool.
Another follow-up question. Are you wearing pants right now?
Yes, I am.
Well, that's not allowed
But
on this podcast.
I was just going to say the question, I send that right
This
back
is
to
no
the three of
pants
you.
included, right? Oh, no parts included.
I'm wearing shorts today. Just
Oh,
to
there you
let
go.
So
I'm very, very, very impressed, Amanda. Very
thank
impressed.
you. Thank you.
That's good. I'm not.
It's because of the angle we're filming. I feel if I do like move my leg around to get more comfortable, I might like flash somebody. So, and like I feel also, Patty, that if I'm not mistaken, it was probably around my mom's funeral that I actually just was like, I don't care, and started
Yeah.
not wearing pants around my friends.
We
If
were
I'm not
together. Yes, I remember that conversation. You're like, I just don't care anymore. My pants are coming off. And we're both like,
And it's funny because I thought that she mentally had that moment like 15 years prior. But that was the moment where I was like, oh, it was just with me that you were that comfortable. Sweet. Aw. I just assumed you were that comfortable with everybody.
it is what it is. Sometimes you just have to not care. Also, one thing I would like to add is when we're wearing a bathing suit, it is less material than
Right?
the underwear that I even usually wear, because what I wear is basically, for those who don't know, a lot of amputees, especially if their stump is very short, tend to wear like a biker style short for underwear, so that way where our liner is finishing isn't just really rough. It just allows so we don't have as many abrasions and everything else. So in a way, I'm like, well, I'm just wearing biker shorts around, so like what's the big deal? So I walk outside in them too. Like my neighbors don't see me with anything else on unless I'm like physically leaving my property and getting in my car. So and
And
they're
that's
used to
fair.
it.
You
But I always think to
live
myself,
there,
like,
so why
and
not?
I grew up I grew up being a swimmer, so you're in your bathing suit all the time. And I think anyone who's used to just being in their bathing suit for several months, or going to competitions and you're hanging out in your bathing suit, aside from if you're cold and you like put stuff on over top, but you just become so used to it that like, what's the big deal if I show you my thigh? Like, ooh. To me, it's what it is. James is going to start pulling out the Speedo now.
Not a good look for me.
Which,
Not a good. Never been a Speedo guy. Very European. I don't know.
I
go with
mean,
that.
a lot of Europeans wear nothing, so that's also a
Well, I've
thing.
done that too. So I mean, it's either shorts or nothing. All right. I don't go speedo; they're too tight.
There's no in between.
There's no in between. I did that once, and I'll probably never do it again.
Probably. Not certain.
Especially in Canada, because the water's so damn cold.
Oh,
It's
yeah. Unless you've
not
got
a fun
heated
walk
pool.
back to the beach. Just put it that way.
So, Patty, when you dream about me, because we've asked this question before to people, uh, do I have two legs, one leg in your dream? Am I an amputee? Am I a normie? Like, what's going on?
You're on a TV screen in my dream because I realized last night actually it was really I was trying to focus because I had another friend was telling me to pay attention to my dreams because she's like something's trying to come through to you, so start paying attention to your dreams. So I started paying attention the last few nights, and I've noticed that it's like there's a cloudy haze and it's like a screen, so it's almost like a Zoom, like you're on a computer or you're watching TV, something like that, where it's like this screen. And if the person's really close up to me, I don't see their full body. And with you, like because we're so close, you're always up close to me. And so it's only really I notice like people in the background that have their quote unquote full body, but I'm not paying attention to them because they're in the background. So I honestly couldn't tell you because I only ever see your upper half whenever I dream about you because we're always talking or doing something, but like I'm not paying attention to your lower half. So I honestly don't know.
I feel like that correlates with what I said previously, though, which is I don't look down at people's
Right?
legs and screen. Like I'm more focused on
Yeah,
their
you're that
face.
connection.
Yeah, like I don't stare at people's feet when I'm having a conversation with
So what you're
them.
saying is nobody has legs in your dreams.
Correct. Everyone is
Yes,
like,
Everybody
yes.
has no
And
legs.
it's was especially something that's interesting too because Amanda is so much shorter than I am. So like I really notice in my dreams everyone's on the same level as me where I'm able to just
oh,
like sit and have actual eye contact with them because technically with you I would be looking down and seeing your legs because I have to look down at you because you're so short.
I
But
think I'm shorter
whenever
than Amanda. Careful here.
I'm 5 foot on the Dotteroo.
right,
Oh, no,
I've
maybe a
got
little
10
shorter.
inches on her.
Yeah.
So like I have to look down like but I've realized in my dreams like everyone's always it's as if they're sitting right next to me talking having a conversation with me. So it's really neat that my brain kind of sees everybody on the same level as me whether or not they're the same height as me.
And truly, I think. Go ahead, Jamie.
I was going to say, I still think it's because everyone has legs in your dream, not the opposite. I still think that, like, you just automatically assume that everyone does. Because you have to get around in some way. You have, like, you know, because
You
for
just
you,
stare
there's
at
no
people's
struggle.
legs, Jamie.
So I don't know why I have the ability to, but I can think in my dreams. So I can have full thoughts in my dreams where it's like, oh, pay attention to this. Like I can have full thoughts.
Ooh.
So I think that it's just a little bit different for me because I can think, I can, process things a little bit differently. Sometimes my processing is like, this doesn't even make sense. Usually that's what I'm saying to myself. but yeah.
You're trying to figure out if this is real life or a dream?
Yeah, exactly. Like usually I'm like, oh, this doesn't even make sense. This person is like I can have like this person's not even alive conversations with myself. I can have, like oh, but what are they doing over there? Conversations with myself kind of thing and stuff like
I think
that.
that's
So
called like lucid dreaming, is it not?
Have you
Yeah,
ever
where you
been
control
where it's
dream.
like you realize that you're in a dream and you're like you come to that realization, you're dreaming, you're like, oh, this is a dream.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely
That's like a
happens.
rare thing that's happened to me like a few times in my life. But it's
Really?
but not all the time.
Really?
No. Yeah.
Weird.
And when I realize I'm in a dream, I'm like, all right, let's cause a ruckus now. This is just a dream, man. Let's get wild.
It's not even surprised. Let's cause a ruckus.
I don't even.
Funny. So
can't
James thinks he's dreaming constantly and in his everyday real life.
My God, it's a giant cat.
Yeah. I was like, that was so adorable. Oh my god. Patty, did we go over? I don't think so. What your favorite or funniest story is that you can recall about just
The
me
whipping of the leg, that was hands down the funniest shit I've ever seen in my life.
It's quite
It
jarring
was
when you
Yes,
first see it.
it was, and every time you did it, it never was not funny. Can you do it with the newer knees? Does it
Yeah.
still? Because I was gonna say I haven't seen you do it in a while. You're a lot more gentle with it, than maybe you're just more cognizant
Yeah.
that you're
No.
really wearing the mechanism out.
No, so what it is now, actually, I'll show you. It's easier to understand what y'all are looking at here. So here's this. There we go. This part here, from
Yeah.
here to here, this is actually the knee. So I cannot really bend this easily. So, like, as you can see, the knee is
Yeah.
bending in that direction. What you add on, I hope this is center here.
Yes, it is.
is this whole section here, which is actually called a rotator.
Yeah.
So this is what I would push in order to, I can't do this movement while holding it like this.
Oh, to get it to do the other.
Yeah. So here's the thing. On the newer rotating device I have, this is actually waterproof.
Oh, okay.
So because it's waterproof, it has more of like a silicone thing around the button, and it's very tight. Like the seal is tight intentionally so that way the water doesn't get in. So because of that, it doesn't just have that swing motion where it just like flows and clicks in anymore.
Yeah.
And it requires a lot more physical labor from me to actually like put it down. And then that's why now you'll see me more like twist and shift and do that thing after I put shoes on. Because I'm trying to get it to lock and it doesn't just swing anymore. So it's a hard prank to pull nowadays if I
That
want to
knee
have
is
a
not
waterproof.
waterproof, though, is it?
Yes, this whole leg is waterproof.
No way. You can go in water with it?
Even the knee, foot. This is not a knee. I need to learn my body parts.
Your ankle.
Wow, that's a weird knee.
Even the knee, that's not a knee. Guys,
Because technically your hip is your knee, right?
What kind of knee is it?
It is an Autobot. Hold on. No idea.
Right.
I thought I was gonna say on here what it was. A Dynan? No idea, guys. This is
It's
what
it's got a computer chip in it, though, right?
Tag Autobotness.
What? Yeah. Yeah, sponsor me. I have no idea what leg I'm even wearing.
For my next one, I'm gonna need it soon.
This one is okay, so it's supposed to be more like a recreational leg. So for this, the features on it are basically it has a lock button. So on this side, I can push it, and the leg will not, like the knee won't bend, or I can unlock it by pushing the other way, which is like obviously I want the thing to bend, but there's certain situations that you might not want it to. And then furthermore, I've got two buttons down here, which is this is walk mode. Oh my God, get that thing out of here. That's walk mode. And then on the other side, I have a bicycle mode. Yeah. Thankfully, they put icons on there, so I know where all the buttons on my leg are. So the bike mode would make it so there's no resistance in the hydraulics. I'm pretty sure it's all hydraulic based. So it's called like a fluidic hydraulic system, which can act like a computer, but it's not. So that's why it can get wet and da-da-da-da-da.
That's cool.
So yeah, it is really neat. But so I don't like to bike at all. I don't personally enjoy biking. I don't know if it's because I have no hip joint or
Probably it.
I
I
have
imagine that's it.
probably a huge part of it. It just makes it very difficult. So I haven't biked, fun fact, other than once or twice at the gym, but I haven't biked since I got my license when I was 16. Like I put my bike away and I got behind the wheel of a car and was just like, bye. So do not need a sore butt anymore. But yeah, and then I don't know because I got a foot shell on here, so I wish I had more information. Like I should talk to my prosthetist and get
Don't
the
bother taking the
details.
foot shell off if that's what you're trying to do.
No, absolutely not. But this is basically just a carbon
Fiber.
fiber spring under here. Well, not spring, but like just rod that kind of curves.
Yep.
And this is pretty hollow and empty actually.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm rocking right now. It's not really supposed to be an everyday one, but I mean, it's working as an everyday one currently because it's a lot lighter. My other leg is 2.2 pounds heavier, and I tell you, those are a lot. Those 2 pounds.
Oh,
Absolutely. Weight on something that does not have very much function is very difficult to carry.
Yeah, you'd
it's dead
be
weight.
surprised. Actually, that's typically what most of my friends say when they pick up my leg is that they are surprised how heavy it was. They weren't expecting it to be
Mm.
that way.
Do
Did you
you
feel
always
that
do?
way?
But I mean, I was just gonna say, I was like, but I did expect it to be that heavy because it's a leg. Like, imagine you, morbid thought, cut off somebody's leg. Do you
It's
expect it
heavy.
to suddenly just be hollow?
It's heavier than a prosthetic leg, I would think.
Right? Like, it's got mechanisms and whatnot in it. Like, of course, like I would expect it to be like aluminum at the very least, which I guess it depends on the materials that there is. Because I have felt your varying weights, and like it is surprising that like to hear that it's only 2.2 pounds because it feels like a lot more.
No, so that's the difference between. So my one leg was 10 pounds,
Okay, that makes more sense.
and this one's 7.8 or something, and I can't even tell you the like. I literally felt like I was wearing a feather on my hip. And I was like, I can run. Like what? But I can't actually though. um, so Patty, other questions that we haven't gone through yet would
Before you get to
be
that, can I ask
yeah,
you guys a question? Because it's just related to what we were just talking about.
not allowed.
Um, I was just curious by James's question about which parts were on your leg. Is that because there's common parts used between all the different limbs? Like, is that something amputees talk about? Is this a normal conversation by quote unquote normal standards?
We talk about parts. We
Yeah.
can sometimes. Well, Jamie and I, we can share parts, both being the same
Well, that's
level of
yeah.
amputations as arm amputees. Like, I could probably take a hand off and give it to her. We'll work on her arm. But
Neat.
yeah, there's a lot of common parts between
Yeah,
between
it
what we're
is.
wearing.
I think that especially for even higher amputees, since they have many more specific parts that are very specific to their limbs, they
Mhm.
want to know what other people are using and how it works for them, because you almost always are looking for the next best thing sometimes when it comes to limbs, just because it's never going to be perfect, right? So yeah, I think that just sharing the components in which you're using
Yeah, it's a
could
huge thing
help, and it
within.
is a big thing in the amputee community, I think.
So it is like when you meet potential like amputees out in public, just randomly, like say you're at a grocery store and you run into one, would that actually just come up right then and there because you're potentially never going to see that person again? Or I guess it depends on what you're seeing, right?
Yeah.
You're like, I need to know about this. Excuse me. It's like stopping someone and asking them where they got their dress from, like sometimes you just have to ask the question.
I think first and foremost, or at least for me, you kind of read the person. So every amputee is so different. That like some don't engage with you at all. Like there's one that I worked with an amputee and they never ever came up and said hi to me or interacted with me or anything. And I always thought it was so strange because I was very open about it. So like I didn't care if I was wearing a dress or shorts or whatever, right? And obviously we all know I love to joke about it and use it as kind of like a icebreaker almost of sorts with people.
Mhm.
And they wouldn't even like look and say hi, and it's very obvious that I have one leg. So in my head, and they would always wear long sleeves or whatever, and they were an arm amputee. So in my head, I thought, well, if they aren't looking at the obvious person being like, look at me, I'm an amputee, and they're not saying anything, and then in perspective, they're also kind of hiding it with the way they're dressing. To me, that's like they're not open about it, and so I'm not going to push it. Like maybe their situation was really traumatic, and so I don't want to bring that up for them. So I
Yeah,
kind
it's
of
like
just leave it as is, and then say, like, you can, I don't know, you just read each other. Like, you know, when someone is open to it, or you can kind of tell, like, they're like, I'm busy. I don't want to do this right now. Like, I have somewhere to be. So yeah, kind of reading their energy. But when you can tell that they're open and they're kind of looking and smiling at you, you know that you're getting like, you're about to be like, hug and become besties. Like,
Secret club.
And
sometimes
yeah,
they
yeah.
just
and
don't
talk
want
about
to have
like
anything to do
components
with
and
you.
stuff. Yeah, yeah.
Just like, hey, amputee, high five, and they're like I've had that in the store, like, hey, you amputee, and most times people are like, oh yeah, right on, and then you could get talking, but there's the odd time where they just give you the cold shoulder. They don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
like, oh, okay, right.
I like take it personally a little bit sometimes. Like I do. I'm like, oh no, you don't? Oh, sometimes
No,
I do.
I'm agreeing with you,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
even though I'm shaking my head no. But I do have a similar question for Patty on that subject. So, since knowing Amanda and spending so much time with an amputee, have you ever run into other amputees in public?
Yes, I have. And I have to say, like, it's you guys were talking about that, it was making me think, like, how do I interact with other amputees? And
Have
I
you
was
ever
like,
mentioned Amanda? Like, hey, I know like I'm best
um,
friends with an amputee. Has that ever happened? Have you ever talked about
I
Amanda?
don't use that as an icebreaker per se, but like it has come up in conversation where I had a former leader where her son was wanting to go to university to learn about robotics, specifically for the process of learning about prosthetics.
Mm.
And so he was trying to get in touch, and she just randomly was telling, I was like, well, fun fact, one of my best friends is a leg amputee, so like if he's looking for people to talk to, happy to make that connection. So like if it comes up organically like that, then I will, but it's not like something where it's like, oh, my amputee, the best friends, like she's not like the amputee to me. She's just my best friend who just happens to be an amputee.
Yeah, of course.
That's kind of the distinguishing. I mean, I suppose I could say Amanda the amputee, but that's mainly just because I have other Amandas. So that's potentially how I distinguish that. If I talk about this Amanda, she's, everybody remembers that she's the one, because that's kind of a distinguishing factor, right? It's like everybody knows that if there's multiple Patricias, oh, the redhead. It's that one feature that everybody knows you by, right? But I wouldn't say that I treat amputees different in public. I wouldn't be so bold as to walk up and be like, hey, you're an arm amputee, because I do not have, that privilege of being like, yeah, like that would be very weird for me to do that if I did that,
I think so.
it's
To
so
be
I
fair, I don't even feel like I have the privilege to do that.
Yeah, no. That
Like,
would
I
and
feel
be
like it's you want to, like, you get
yeah.
excited, but then you're like, whoa, that, like, you don't know what someone's going through,
Right.
or
It's always, and it's very much you read the person. And so it's like if somebody is open about it, I'll talk to them about it, but like and acknowledge it. But otherwise I just treat them like any other person who's just you're just a normal person,
that's a good
Absolutely.
way to go about it.
Thank you.
well, also think it speaks a lot to Patty's character, which is, for those that aren't super close or know Patty, she is literally an earth angel. Like, her mission
Right
is
back at
always thanks. But her mission's always to help other people, and that's not even like a goal. It's just what she naturally does. I honestly, Patty, I'd have to say that you're one of those friends who's kind of taught me that people want to shower you with love, and you love to give people gifts, and I would always be like, oh god, she got me a gift, crap, like, and I get uncomfortable receiving gifts. And so I had to become comfortable, because you literally just show up for no reason. You're like, I got you a gift because I saw it and thought of you. And I'm always like, oh, what? Okay. So that's just your spirit. And you do that with everybody amongst a community. And you only share it as a means of like bringing awareness to things that need to be brought, like have attention brought to it in our society, whether it's like community programs, fundraising, whatever. But you don't, you don't gloat about it, you don't talk about it 24/7. Like, even as your best friend, I don't even know all the charity work that you do, and I'm always like, are you busy this weekend? Like, that's basically how we have to map things out. But and my point is, though, it comes so naturally for you to just be an inclusive person to everybody.
Thank
And
you.
you don't change, just like you said in your dreams, like everybody's really equal and level, and you don't put yourself above or below anybody. And it kind of just that shows and radiates in all aspects of your life. So
Thank
uh
you. I firmly believe that like everybody deserves love. You know, we're all our own person, and just because you're different doesn't mean you deserve any less love. And it's, you know, it's really highlighted since I've met you that it's really pointed that out to me that I am an anomaly that way, that I'm, you know, I like to think I'm part of the majority, but I'm actually sadly part of the minority. And that was why I started, you know, quote unquote broadcasting what I do, because I felt like I needed to highlight that for people that, like, yes, I do all these amazing things. Even if you just do 1%, you know, it's better than you were before. And that's my goal with myself, is I just try and do, okay, can I do a little bit better than I did yesterday? You know, can I give somebody else a hand up because somebody gave me a hand up when I needed it the most? You know, and I thought about that. I was listening to a podcast earlier and they talked about how it can be really hard to receive love. It's very, very easy to give love when you want to, but it can be really, really hard to receive love. And you have to work at it. You have to remind yourself that you just inherently deserve it. You don't have to do anything special to receive love and to have people care about you. That is just, you're human, you're alive, boom, you get love. That's just how we need to interact with each other. And I think we've lost that as a greater society, and we're slowly coming back to it. I think we're, you know, conversations like this, interactions like this, where we just treat each other as just another human being who deserves love. You know, I give you love, you give me love. We're all loved. You know, it's just a great little interaction. So that's just how I like to live my life. And I'm so grateful to be surrounded with people like you, where you're the exact same way. You know, if you have capacity to give, you give. You know, if people want to give to you, you receive, you know, as best you can. We all have our moments, but I'm
learning.
here to shove it at you. I won't take the
Yeah, I was like, Patty, you're my lifelong lesson of me trying to learn how to receive love. So that's you and Jamie. Jamie,
You're
you
welcome.
do that. I'm always like, you're making me uncomfortable. Stop being such a nice friend.
I'm like, I don't care. Take it.
Right? Like, you're not allowed to be upset about this. I am giving you love. Take the love.
Yeah. All right, question kind of that correlates to that is, are you very cautious, like when we're hanging out together, about me being an amputee? Like, are you and I mean, and this was actually a question Jamie came up with, so I don't like want to steal her thunder, but we haven't rolled back, and I want to make sure because I love this. It's just like, do you sit and think of ways to help me? Does it come naturally? What is that like for you, just spending time with me?
It feels so egotistical to say it comes naturally, because it doesn't, as like our earlier conversation of me, like, you know, spending the first 2 decades of my life not even thinking about amputation, you know, so I wouldn't say that it comes naturally, but I think it's just inherent when I'm around you, that like I'm just hyper aware that, like, okay, I'm, you know, 10 inches taller than her and I've got 2 legs. watch your stride, watch your pace, because I've swam with you, like you can outswim me, and I feel that's firmly because you are losing the weight of an entire leg. But like there's certain times where like I can let you push yourself, but then there's other times where like if I know you're injured, if I know you're tired, where it's like, okay, like she's going to do her best to keep pace with me because that's just who she is. So I need to slow myself down to slow her down. And I just try and do it in a way where hopefully I don't make you feel like I'm patronizing you, but it's like I'm just like trying to be like hyper conscious of your wellness, because it's potentially a moment where you're not taking care of yourself. So it's again me like sneakily trying to be like, she's not loving herself. I'm gonna love herself for her.
And I'm gonna hop into here too a little bit, because I know that when all three of us have been hanging out, you are both very aware of my needs. Just as like, and I know like we all have different needs. Same with you, Patty. Like we're, you know what I mean? Just as like I'm aware of Amanda's needs too, right? And so sometimes I'll be like, no, let me go and do that. And Amanda will be like, no, I'm fine. And I'm like, shh.
Yeah. It's like, no. But I mean, that's definitely something that I've learned from meeting both of you for sure. And I'm sure the same thing could be said if we ever met in real life, James. Like learning that the limitations that we have in our mind is self-imposed / what other people taught us, that they aren't always true limitations. That I think really got amplified once I started recognizing the extra effort it takes for amputees to do certain things, the extra thought that needs to be put into things that I just potentially take for granted, like opening a really tough jar where I need both hands. You don't even attempt it. You just immediately are like, nope. And like, it's really good that you don't even have any shame around that, where you're just like, I'm just not capable. And it's like, cool, I got two hands. Let me help you here. Mm-hmm. So it's really neat that we could recognize that with each other, where there is everybody has their limits. Everybody has their boundaries. But I'm sure that if you were ever by yourself, you'd figure it out. Like I know that you would get that jar open, because you're just like, you're not just gonna, there's no two-handed person here. I guess that I'm just not gonna do this. You'd be like, no, like I want these, and you would just get into it. So it's really neat. Like there's certain circumstances where I'm able to push myself because you guys come to my mind, where I'm like, if Amanda can do this or if Jamie can do this, I can do it. Because it doesn't take any extra effort on my part, whereas they'd be able to do it with that extra effort, despite, all the chronic pain that you guys live with on a daily basis, And so it's really neat.
Quick follow-up to that too, because I know that I use it, but I don't know if Amanda does at all. Are there some things sometimes when Amanda's like, oh, but it's so difficult, and for sure that like she could just do it, and you're just like, okay, well, you're just being a big complainer pants, and and you should do, like, I have friends who I sometimes do the guilt thing with, and they're just like, come on, really? I don't think so. Is there any? I don't think Amanda does it as much as I do.
No, I don't know that she's ever done it with me. I feel like I'm the one who has to check myself to make sure that I'm not complaining about something to her that I'm like, oh, I should not be complaining to Amanda about this. Like, there's just certain things where like I don't get to complain that my legs, plural, are sore. Like, that's just rude.
Your legs are
carrying, and has the hip strap, and so it's like whenever I feel certain pains, I'm like, I'm not allowed to complain about this. Like, think about how Amanda's feeling. She's feeling 10 times worse, and actually deserves to complain about that pain. That's and she's hilarious.
Not. That's hilarious, man. I never thought about that, but I've been around people that, like, this just came up in my head, where it's like I've been around people where they've been making obvious comments about, like, complaining about something that's
their back pain,
a two-hand thing, like, or
their
something.
Back pain.
Their back
people
pain?
Complaining about their back pain. It's like,
or any pain, or I was going like more like two-handed things, or like just like, and I've been like, and they're around me, and I'm like, should I say something? Like, no, I won't. And I'm like,
Oh, you're a nice person.
I've
depends.
had a
Depends on the
friend.
person. But
I've had a friend recently where I was like, oh yeah, they were suggesting that I do something, and I was like, oh yeah, but that like takes a lot of energy, and he's like, really, really. He's like,
Yes,
stop it.
really.
I've seen you. He's like, I've seen you do so many things. And I'm like, okay, fair. Like, I do use it sometimes. So I think it's really funny that certain people who are very close to me can call me out by certain things. But I mean, there's other things like being on the passenger side of a car is just so much easier, as an example, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah. So interesting.
I
Yeah.
think that's funny that you say that, Jamie, because I don't even think off the top of my head I've
I don't
ever.
think you've ever done it with me.
Right.
either.
That's why I'm like, I don't think I've ever heard Amanda complain. Like,
I
I
think
do it though.
yeah,
like I know you can grumble a little bit, but I mean, like I know you're in a lot of pain on a daily basis. So like you're allowed. Like when you live with chronic pain, like people don't get it. It's one of those invisible things that, because I do live with, I had a neck injury when I was a kid that didn't get diagnosed until I was in my 20s. So 10 years of recovery, I'm a lot better than I used to be. But like when I compare myself to someone like Amanda, my pain is nothing. My pain is absolutely nothing, considering what she has to deal with on a daily basis of just the leg amputee, never mind all the other things of all the magical spills that have happened and the compound to I've had 4 concussions. That's potatoes compared to Amanda,
but
like
I would
my
like to
brain
say
is in much better shape than her.
your, your pain is still valid.
Oh,
Like you're still
absolutely.
allowed to be in pain
Absolutely.
and
It
say
doesn't
your
but it doesn't invalidate my pain, but it helps
yeah.
me recognize that like of if I'm gonna complain to anybody, it's not gonna be to Amanda. Because like that's just
I,
silly. Unless we're just having a conversation where we're both complaining about our pain, then it's like a nice little validation trade-off where we're recognizing that the other's pain is there. But I don't think we've ever really done that.
no, I think to kind of follow up to that, I think it's because the way my brain works is I'm always thinking, um, I don't want to miss out. So, and there's a lot of stuff that if I didn't find a way to adapt to include myself, I would miss out. So, my brain naturally goes through all the different things of like, how could I do it? Also, um, I mean, I've lived on my own for a significant amount of time, which there isn't usually. I started only because Jamie has been kind of making me in a way start thinking like, oh, when someone comes down or someone's like over, it's okay to ask them for help. And like case in point, like Patty, the last time she was down, like, can you just check my smoke detector because
It's
it's
easier.
Yeah,
probably safer.
100%.
Like I could, but given all my issues, it's just safer for me to ask. And so I'm well aware that I could do it, but is it also like I get vertigo? Is it a great idea to stand on a ladder with one leg and reach in the air in the middle of a hallway?
Right.
Like
by yourself.
yeah,
I
by myself?
in that
Probably
moment, I was so
not.
grateful that you asked for that. Where I was like, I am so glad she did not attempt this on her own. Like,
Which is funny
absolutely, like,
because it's the first time that I actually asked, and it was one of those things where I was like, I've always done it myself. And now I've gotten to the point where I thought, okay, I have been doing it myself, but it's okay to ask a friend who doesn't mind helping just because it would make it easier. But yeah, I never was like, I can't do it. It was more like, hey, Patty, you're a foot taller. You got both your legs and you don't
yeah,
get vertigo when you step 6 inches in the air.
Well,
Can you help me out?
and I think like Patty and I have been able to get to that point too where we just don't wait for you to ask anymore. Like
yeah.
if we see things,
Yeah.
we're just like, oh, we don't care.
We
Like,
see
we're
you
just
start to
doing
do
it.
something, we're like, nope, nope, nope.
Yeah, exactly.
This is not
don't
safe.
care.
Health and
Um,
safety brain's kicking in. This is a bad idea.
I think for me, really interestingly enough, is that I exaggerate things a lot. Maybe for manipulation, maybe. Maybe just because I don't want to do it, possibly.
That's fair.
I like that though.
But I
Never.
exaggerate quite a bit.
To be fair, the reason I don't do it is because of my insecurities. Like that's like me trying to build confidence in myself, or I've gone through things in the past that made me feel insecure in some type of way. And so I felt the need to prove to myself that I can do it because I'm one of those like silly independent people
I'm very
who,
stubborn.
yeah, like I'm stubborn. It is what it is, right? Like
I'm getting better at asking for help, but I would like to figure out a way to do it myself, but I'll acknowledge that there are lots of things that someone could help with, or it could go a lot smoother if I get a two-handed person to help me
yeah,
uh, do that. And so
yeah,
I'm getting better at that, like I think, but like still, I still have like with opening a jar, which is kind of funny that you mentioned that earlier. Yeah, with that, I would definitely, I think I would ask for help. But when you said, "Oh, but you'll find a way," no, I've actually been here because I live alone, and I've been here and I've been defeated by a jar before. I haven't been able to get it open, and I'll tell
In
you why.
fairness, so have I.
It's
Most
You
most
move with 2 hands, it's still jars will best you. It's not just you.
it was a maple. It was a jar, a mason jar of maple syrup.
Ooh, yeah.
And you know how crystallized it gets, like on
Oh
the
yeah.
lid? Dude, I had to
Yeah.
throw it out. I would have smashed it against the wall. I was so frustrated. I also have tendonitis in my right
Buddy,
hand. So it
no,
was
boil a
we gotta
pot of water and put it in there. You just gotta melt the crystals because it was
not that
honey
smart.
that almost bested me. And then I googled it and was like, how do you open
You use a
a
knife.
jar of
and
honey?
pry- You have
I
to use
did
a
the
knife
knife
and pry
thing.
it.
I didn't do the water thing though, eh? Son of
yeah,
a gun.
hot water
Yeah,
is
you just
essentially
gotta
like
heat it up and let it.
For me,
No, my
just
arm
let it
was
melt.
toast after. Like I had hurt my tendonitis was like flaring up, and like I just gave up. And I ate my, I don't know what the heck it was. I guess I ate dry ass
Without
pancakes.
maple
I don't
syrup.
really know. I don't know what I was having at that. I just know that I've been defeated by
I've
a jar.
I've used the knife trick, and then pried open lids from the side and used that knife trick. That's the way I open
The knife
lids that
trick.
are
like,
tough.
what's the knife trick?
So you put the knife in between the jar and the lid, and you put it in like further than where it should go, and then you just like pry the lid out from the jar, and then you go around and do that at certain parts of the jar, and then try it again, and usually you can get it open.
That's good to know because I haven't
A
made
butter
this-
knife, though, not a sharp knife, James. That seems dangerous.
Yeah, get an axe.
Yeah,
So
no steak
Wait.
knives.
the way you open a jar is you're gonna get an axe or the sharpest knife you have.
Smash that puppy open.
We
On
didn't
that
say that
note-
the contents will be usable after.
Yeah, the jar will
I'm
be up
gonna
in
try
there.
the melting trick. The melting trick sounds the safest.
Honestly,
first.
when it comes to anything that's sticky like that in general, like with maple. I love maple syrup. I use it for
Mhm.
like everything. I immediately after each use just give it a quick rinse with
Yeah.
warm water, and then that doesn't happen. But if you've already bypassed that and you have a lot of crystallization, just run that bitch under hot water and it's good to go.
So, as hand amputees, do you guys not have any like tools to help you open things like that?
So many. There's a jar opening
yeah.
tool. I just don't have it.
We have so many, but do we ever truly use them? No.
Some of us
Well,
do.
and that has to
Okay.
kind of, I think that kind of just says that they didn't develop them
Appropriately,
in
if it's not useful enough for you to immediately want to go to it, that
well,
means
it could
it's
work
supposed to
for
be
one
done.
and another type of person, right? So
Mm.
maybe someone who's just a hand amputee, it could work for, or a part hand amputee. Those devices could work, but every amputee, it's so unique and specific that there's not really like a universal tool that works. And I think that's kind of more the reason that usually happens.
For me,
Mhm.
it's just like, nah, I'm gonna get this bitch open like by myself. Like it's so funny that I do that, but then in other situations, I'm like, I'm just a poor girl who can't do things. And like, do this
Call somebody over.
Yeah.
I don't have a hand.
My mom, I swear to God, my mom's always showing up with like new devices for like cutting onions and cutting tomatoes. She's like, "Hey, I found this. I thought of you. It's like a one-handed onion cutter.
Aw,
Never
that's
used it.
so
That's
freaking
sweet.
sweet.
She'll watch this too and be like, "I'm gonna take that back then. I want it.
All
I
back.
want to cut my onions at." I haven't
So,
used it yet, actually, Mother. I'm sorry, but you know what? Maybe I should try because it like you push down. It's like this little plastic thing that opens and it holds your onion in it, and you can like slice through. I think I don't know. I should use
Oh.
it.
I mean, that sounds useful even for me with 2 hands.
Well, it's for people with 2 hands, but it would help people with 1 hand because you can nub on the top and just slice.
There you go.
And see, Patty's been around us, so she's been around me, so she knows exactly what you mean by nub on the top.
It's
Nub on the top.
impressive, honestly. Like,
Push
that's what I
something
mean.
down
Like,
with the nub, holding something with the nub. Yeah.
amputees are usually way more resourceful than fully bodied people. Like,
Yeah, we figure out we have the
right? You get innovative.
find special ways to do things, right? Like we have to find unique ways of like figuring things out and like so, you know.
Yeah, I guess that kind of ties into the last question we have is really what is it like to be friends with an amputee? If we haven't already covered that, but if there's any more insights you would like to add to not just what it's like to be friends with me specifically, but I like to
my
say you
amputee bestie.
Yeah.
I mean, it's normal. Like, it's really, well, I guess it's a little bit more educational than, potentially being friends with fully bodied people because you guys make me think about things that I don't necessarily go to automatically. But yeah, definitely it makes me more resourceful, that's for sure. Because like, especially like whenever I do have issues opening jars, like I sit there and I'm like, okay, how would Jamie open this? Like if I'm having trouble with this, how would Jamie open this? I could, you go for the dangerous ones, man. There's a few other tricks that you can do before then. I feel like this. I need to teach you a couple of other ways too. That like you don't gotta go straight for the knives. There's a few other ways. But I admire that you're just cutting to the chase. You're just grabbing a knife and just getting her done.
It speaks a lot to why Jamie and I are friends.
Yeah,
like,
it's true.
Our first way of what we try to tackle anything is we'll just grab a knife.
We'll just go to the most dangerous way. We'll just, on a scale of 1 to 10, dangerous? Yes. Okay, that's the one we're going to go with. I have a friend where she's health and safety, and whenever she's about to do something dangerous, she'll literally turn around to whoever's around her, stranger, friend, whatever. It's okay, I'm health and safety. And then proceeds to do the very dangerous thing. And I'm just immediately like running over like, oh my...
I feel like I'm going to start using that line, even though like that is not at all what I do. But
amazing.
Grab a knife. Actually, I before we have to let Patty go here, I did have one other question that I wanted to ask you. And
sure.
That was, have you ever been upset at another person when you've been out in public? Has there ever been some times that maybe someone else has been staring at Amanda, has made a comment? Have you ever had to jump in and like explain for her, like, or someone asked a question about her leg, even if it's innocent? Have you jumped in and tried to defend, or have you had like someone rude in public, like make a comment? Have you ever been like peed off at somebody in public for when you're out with her? And you notice
there's one time that comes to mind, and I don't know if Amanda remembers this because I'm sure it probably happens to you all the time. But we were parking somewhere, and Amanda always drove because she had her pass, and so we parked in the handicap spot, and we were fully out of the car, and someone saw us, and we were in our 20s, and they were like, "How dare you park in that spot?" And I just literally was like, excuse me? Like, are you kidding me right now? Like, she's wearing shorts. Like, does that look like a normal human leg to you? Like, she has every right to park in this spot. Like, how dare you?
Not only that, she
believe
has
the audacity of this person. And then they fully, like, they doubled down. They were an older person. Wow. Older people with disabilities deserve to park there. And I was like, buddy, like,
Wow.
No, like, are you, like, anybody, like, it was just this whole thing. But I do notice that people stare. I haven't noticed it as much, like, in recent years, where I feel like having the representation in the media is really starting to help. Because, like, I was watching a show, and one of the main characters is a double leg amputee, and I was like, yes. I had this moment where I was like, I need to text Amanda about this. Like, I got so excited that I was just like, this is amazing. And, like, he was wearing shorts, you could see the prosthetics and everything, and I was like, this is amazing. They're not even hiding it. Like, I love this, because then it normalizes it, right? Where you don't need to stare, because it's not just like, ooh, like, what's going on there? My favorite though is when kids interact with Amanda, because it's such innocent curiosity, where, like, they'll stare, but not in a, like, ugh way, more of a, like, oh, what's going on over there? Like, and so, like, sometimes they'll engage, sometimes Amanda will see it and engage them and be like, hey, do you have questions? And I just love seeing that interaction, because that's what I would have hoped my experience would have been like if it had happened to me at a younger age.
Yeah.
So, like, just like that first experience, right? Where it's the first, like, luckily I was older, but, like, imagine, like, potentially a 4, 5, 6-year-old where they've literally never seen something like that. Kids are very blunt. So,
Oh, yeah.
like, they could, I'm sure you guys have
I do.
experienced it time and time again. Like, it's,
Yep.
I've had comments said to me by kids where it's like, oh, I can't believe you just said that to me, and it's interesting. So it's really neat seeing it, where it's that pure innocent curiosity, where there's, kindness sprinkled in within it. It's really, it gives me hope for the future, is what it does.
That's good. Yeah,
Love it.
kids love the kids when they ask a question. That's great.
Oh gosh.
You have a chance to educate them. It's always hilarious.
I
And
always have a great time with
it's not even bad when adults are nice and they ask a question like a nice way. That's fine. But you run into the odd jerk that questions why you would park in a handicap spot, and that's part of my reasoning why we've gone through this in one of our episodes. Should I be able to get should an arm amputee be able to get a handicap parking spot pass? And a lot of people that commented said, oh yeah, absolutely, and they have one, and I know arm amputees that
everyone
do,
that
because
said yes.
what's that?
Everyone.
Well, and
Yeah, but I still feel like I'm gonna get that guy, or like I don't know.
Who
Yeah,
cares? We don't
and
care about those people.
and
No,
truthfully,
right?
guys,
Those are,
it's all about policy. It's not about personal opinion.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
doesn't
like,
matter what
there's-
individual people think. It's a policy. It's not personal opinion. So
yeah.
Correct.
It's
Yeah.
it's funny that your story went to a handicap parking story too, because I've been with a leg amputee who has a handicap parking spot pass, and the same thing has happened to us, where
it's
he's
just
gotten
mind-boggling.
looks all the time until they finally notice that he has one leg. I've never had a person come up and double down though. That's crazy.
It was bananas, where they just, like, I don't know what they were thinking, where I think honestly, I think they were embarrassed, where I felt like they had to, like, commit to what they were saying, because it was that moment where it was like, how didn't you notice that? Like, if she had been wearing pants or, like, a long dress, absolutely, it's not visible, and she hadn't started walking yet. But, like, she got out of the car wearing shorts. Like, it was just out
As
there.
long as somebody has gone through the stages to get that pass, you shouldn't
Right?
be questioning
And
them,
I
right?
never, whenever, if somebody looks even quote unquote able body getting out of a car, I never question it, because,
You never know
chronic
what's going
illnesses,
on,
like,
man.
you never, especially the spine, like, those are the most invisible, and, like, that's the
Yeah,
most
for
painful,
sure.
as somebody with a long-term neck injury can attest.
Try
It's
carrying
not
all your
fun, like,
bags out with like a spine injury and stuff too,
right?
right? Or like you
Carrying
don't
that
want to.
all the way across the parking lot, and it's, especially in, like, a big mall where the carts aren't allowed outside, or they only go so far, there's, or you only have enough for a basket, there's so many judgments that people put on, but you never know. You never ever know. And chronic pain is no joke. It's, I've had doctor after doctor and tattoo artist after tattoo artist tell me I have an exceptionally high pain tolerance. You have a neck injury for 20 years where you almost decapitated yourself. Yeah. I learned to live with pain, where I thought it was psychosomatic for like a decade and a half. It wasn't until I met someone that was like, no, like you almost decapitated yourself. How are you doing all these things? And it was just like, oh, okay. Didn't know that, you know? Here I was just thinking I was a weakling, not able to keep up with my, amputee best friend.
Well,
Oh my god.
almost
So
decapitating yourself, that's I can't believe you're still sitting there. So kudos
Right?
There's
to
a
you.
reason
It's
why Patty
I'm
and I are
so
friends.
grateful every day. Like you can't take anything for granted,
Absolutely.
True. I don't even remember that story, Patty. However, it's because I've had it happen to me so frequently in my life that,
I believe that, sadly.
like, it just, yeah, I don't remember it, but I 1,000% believe you, because that's from the outside, obviously pretty shocking to experience the first time as a friend when it does happen.
That happens to you often, Amanda? When you park in
Yes.
spots?
I would say I haven't had it happen as frequently as an adult, but when I was pre 30, anywhere from like teenager to probably my 20s, it happened a lot where
'Cause you're
people
so young looking, yeah. Because that
yeah,
is immediately he just looked at our faces and was like, "How dare you?" And I was like,
I
"How dare
mean,
you?"
did I not tell the story about I got a handicap parking ticket?
Yes, yeah, you did.
Yeah, I was like, I'm pretty sure I told this story on the podcast. Like,
Yeah, that
I
episode that we
got
did
a
it.
ticket. Yeah, so that's
That's
yeah.
crazy too.
So I mean, yes,
I'm
it's
surprised you
happened.
still don't get it though, because you don't really look like you still kind of look like you could be pre-30. I'm not trying to get brownie points right now. I'm just stating the obvious, okay?
Well, thanks, James. I think there's also like a maturity or something that comes with it. Like maybe it's just like, when you're running into shoppers to go get Advil and like a wrist brace. Maybe there's a different vibe than when you're going out to LCBO to go get alcohol or something.
It's been amazing having you on, so thank you.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank
really.
you.
A lot of fun.
It's been
Thank you.
fun. I loved it. This was awesome.
And Patty, is there anywhere that if people want to find you, where they can find you on social media at all?
Yes, I have multiple accounts actually. So I've got my main page is Noble Lady Ventures because I am Noble Lady. Um, and it's just kind of chronicling my adventures, as Amanda said. But then I recently started another page called Noble Candor. So hopefully I will have you guys on it. It's a future podcast. I just wanted to save the handle, and I've slowly started building that page where it's just real talk. It's just us, sitting down, having a conversation, speaking like it is, because I don't feel like that happens enough. So yeah, those are my two pages, and I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and we're not gonna talk about the other one.
No one uses Twitter anymore.
No, exactly. So I'm like, oh wait, those are the only two I'm on then. Instagram is most likely where you'll find me.
Well, Patty, thank you so much for coming on today. You are, as always, just such a gem to spend time with, and it's so great getting the insight. And these are questions I've never even asked you or we've never talked about, so it's cool for me to hear as well. If you have any questions for us, please drop them down in the comment section below. We'll do our best to address them in any upcoming episode. If you like the video, then make sure that you hit the like button as well as subscribe to our channel and hit the little bell so that you get notified for all upcoming videos in the future. You can find us on all social media at Some Parts Not Included. And until next time,
Bye everyone.